to the podcast with no limits. Whether it be sports, current events, or random thoughts, this is the place to step in and stay a while. Your host is a proud alumnus of Rio Hondo Prep, a former minor league baseball umpire, and a man with strong opinions. Welcome to the Get Home Safe podcast and your host, Matt Ursuma.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Get Home Safe. If you're watching on YouTube, there have been some changes in the living arrangements, if you will. I am recording with you guys from not our new couch, but our old couch in a new location. Valerie and I, my lovely girlfriend, have moved. We are no longer in Riverside County. We're back in LA County, although I'm not sure she ever lived in LA County. But anyway, it's just her and I. We are here. Well, some of you know where it is, and we'll keep it at that for now. But it's good to be back with you guys. We took a break last week from the podcast. I recorded an interview, I should say. But we took the week off from our regularly scheduled programming, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, as you guys have become accustomed to. We started this back in, well, as far as weekly shows, back in, I think, March, maybe around April 1st, somewhere in there of 2020. And we had time during the lockdown, nothing else to do but to podcast. So we did just that. I did shows every day. Bill Barnes was our weekly guest on Wednesdays, and Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, we tried to bring in a new guest and talk to them about current events and their life's journey and everything. So that was the beginning of the podcast. I eventually got a job in September, and we went to a Monday, Wednesday, Friday format. It has evolved into, I really am proud of the product that we've put out there, and it has evolved into a fun show, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, with the long form interviews on Fridays. Wednesdays, the weekly Wednesday weigh-in with Bill Barnes, and Mondays is kind of a freelance show, for my opinions, really, on the matters at hand, sports-related, current events. And of course, what we try to do on Mondays is a segment called Suds With Studs, where we honor some heroes, talk briefly about some courageous actions of people in the military, law enforcement, sometimes just everyday civilians doing who came across an impossible situation. But I got my football here, my couch side football. That it means football season is close. It is very, very close. I'm actually recording this on Monday. Sometimes I record it Sunday or a few days before, but this is Monday morning. This will be out around noon or so today, August 9th. And I'm going to tell you a few things today about moving forward, some guests that will be on the podcast soon, some additions really to the Monday show now that it is football season. Not much will change with Wednesdays, of course, with Bill Barnes, as long as he's willing to commute out here a little further from his home than it was before when I was in Eastvale. So hopefully he still comes out here. And I think our setup here on the couch, we'll have to do some rearranging, but we'll make it work. I think Bill's been committed to the program, and I think he was okay having the week off last week, our first week off since we started this thing. I think that's probably a good thing, to take a breather and to recharge the batteries. And they were definitely needed for me with the moving and everything. We moved in August 1st. And this entire week has just been one of constantly building things, erecting things, moving things, getting packages nonstop, emptying boxes, loading boxes up and taking them elsewhere. I mean, it's just been chaos. For those of you who've moved a time or two, you know what I'm talking about. So I didn't think there was any way to fit in the podcast. And I'm kind of glad that we didn't give it a try. But it's been fun. Valerie and I are all moved in. A few things left around here to fix and everything, and God bless Valerie, because there's things I do not do well, and one of those it's definitely a man card violation in my regard. I'll hammer myself here, and for those of you who've listened before, I am not very good at construction of any kind, assembly. It's a patience thing, I think, more than anything. I get frustrated. I read very slow on directions. And it's just best that she kind of does that while I assist her, because she's far better at it than I am. And maybe I should be better, but I really do appreciate her doing the things that a lot of men should be doing that I fall short of. So shame on me. I know some of you out there laughing and probably going, man, you got to man up, Matt. That's brutal, but it is what it is. One of my many faults, we'll say. So today, guys, the podcast, I don't know how long I'm going to go. Like I said, we're set up here. Finally got all the rooms together. We got pictures out. I thought when we moved in, we needed a podcast room. We still have kind of that office upstairs with like a guest room, but I thought, let's just bring it to the couch. Let's do it in the living room. No one will be home ever to really interrupt. So there's no reason we can't do that. So that's kind of the plan moving forward here with the Get Home Safe podcast. I do have a Suds with Studs segment I want to talk to you guys about, which we'll get to here soon. I have some comments, just kind of in summary of the Olympics that are pretty much wrapped up now and all done with. There was a few stories in there that I took note of, and I have some thoughts there. I'm excited about the football season upcoming. Just watched the Hall of Fame enshrinement over the weekend, the class of 2020 on Saturday night and class of 2021 on Sunday night. They did that because of the whole COVID thing. They postponed the 2020 class from last year. So I remember I was watching Saturday night going, oh, I didn't realize, or no, that's what it was. I saw Saturday night and then also Sunday. I was like, oh, they did it back 2 days. Like, then I realized, oh, it's two different enshrinements. So that was cool. Cool seeing some of the legends. And I have some, just some brief comments on that. Hard Knocks, the Dallas Cowboys this year is upcoming, starts on Tuesday. For those of you who have HBO, it's kind of the behind the scenes look into training camp with this year, the Dallas Cowboys. Last year was the Rams and Chargers. I think the year before that, it was the Raiders. So always kind of cool, kind of get your blood flowing for the upcoming NFL season. And don't forget about college football. That's less than a month away. I'm not sure when the first game is. Usually Labor Day weekend, right? That Saturday, and then there's usually a primetime game that Monday. So we'll get to all that today. One thing I want to tell you about Mondays and going forward. First of all, I think next Monday, I'm going to do an episode with Valerie again. We did one last Friday or the Friday before our last episode before taking a week off. And that was a lot of fun, but the audio was kind of screwed up. And so you couldn't really hear her very well. So I thought it was a fun episode, kind of us anticipating the big move. And I'd like to do another one now with an updated version of us having officially moved, maybe some funny stories and things. I'm not having her on weekly or anything, but I did tell you guys that I wouldn't mind having her on, once every couple months at least, much like I like having my brother Sam on. I like to have him on, at least once a month, and maybe football season will be different. But so that's kind of something to look forward to for a Monday episode. Additionally, as we get closer to the football season, you guys know I love my alma mater, Rio Hondo Prep, big high school football fan. And we had some good coverage of them in the springtime. We talked with head football coach Mark Carson a time or two during this football season. And I want to do that in going forward. Mondays here during football season are going to be pretty full. A lot of it will just be me and my opinions from the college games and the NFL games. But I also want to cover Rio Hondo Prep. I want on Mondays to have Mark Carson on. It doesn't need to be the full hour or anything. And maybe for 20 minutes or so, the plan is to talk about recapping the game they just played, except for week one, obviously. Talk about that game, kind of what went wrong, what went right, what he liked from the game, and then also looking forward to the upcoming Friday's game. So kind of a weekly Mondays with Mark, we'll call him, talking Rio Hondo Prep football for a short segment on the podcast. So that's my plan. I also want to do a preview show for the season upcoming for Rio Hondo and talk to Mark Carson maybe before that week one game. They open up against the dreaded Pasadena Poly Panthers, who they actually played in their last game, of course, at the Rose Bowl back on April 1st. But they open up against Pasadena Poly on August 27th. So my hope is, if everything goes correctly, that Monday, the Monday before the Friday game there, we'll talk with Mark Carson about the upcoming football season, give us a preview of who the players are, some new faces, right? Some guys have graduated and everything. So some new faces and new positions, and kind of talk about the overall schedule, I think is what we'll do in that first episode. Some great teams on the schedule this year. They play Linfield Christian. We had head coach Deshaun Burns, who's a head coach down there. We had him on the podcast a few months back. So I'm glad to see that game came together. Of course, game against Boron, Temple City on the schedule this year. Pretty cool. And then a new kind of league format, league schedule that we'll talk about with head football coach Mark Carson on Mondays during the football season. The first show should be, let's see, 8/27. So whatever that Monday is, August 23rd, I think that Monday will be our first show with football coach Mark Carson. So if you have questions or topics you want me to get to Mark, I'll remind you guys as we get closer, but that is the plan. So talking real Honda Prep football, a full season, I hope this year, none of that 3-game spring season they just did, a full season here as Real Hondo Prep attempts to keep the tradition rolling, really, with Real Hondo Prep football. So that's the plan. RHP football. We love all of RHP sports, but we all know that football, it kind of makes the world go around, and the Real Hondo Prep football tradition speaks for itself. So we want to talk to head coach Mark Carson weekly if we can on Mondays, and talk about the other football stories on in and around college football and the NFL. That's the plan for the next couple of weeks. Okay, Val and then Mark. I want to tell you about our upcoming guests. I have recorded with a few already and have set these aside. They're ready to go. The next few Fridays are going to be fun, a very wide range of guests. We're first going to be joined by my good friend Andy Angelo, who I have umpired baseball with and at the high school and like youth level and stuff. He used to always assign me a lot of games for extra money and things. I refereed a lot of high school football with him. Just a good friend. He loves Real Hondo Prep. He goes down there and works a lot of the junior high games. So he has a few great stories to talk about. He's a Army veteran. His son was a combat medic with the multiple tours in Iraq. So proud member of the Army. Andy's father was also in the Army in Normandy, among the first landing craft. So a few stories there to chat about with Andy that I'm looking forward to. That should be this Friday. The following week, we're going to be joined, or we've already recorded these episodes, of course, but we're going to be joined by Brandon Hayashi, the head football coach at Citrus College. Just recently was promoted to head coach. So we're going to talk about his football journey, his coaching stops along the way, where he played college ball, and just coaching philosophies, and kind of, now that you're in charge of a program, what that's like. So that was a fun conversation. Can't wait for you guys to hear that. And the other interview I have already recorded that you guys are going to have to wait a few weeks for is Real Hondo Prep graduate, 1992, Rod Bazuzzi, who is a longtime contributor, longtime police officer down in Huntington Beach. So he had some stories about being a cop, and of course his days at Real Hondo Prep, playing alongside the likes of Todd Carson, Rick Johnson, Pete Clark, Jeff Fairley, John Lee. I'll forget some names, of course, but that legendary class, and not just class, but group of guys really that have come on the podcast and talked a little bit already, a few different guys. So it was a fun conversation with Rod, talking mostly about football, police work, him being a fan of the podcast. I can't wait for you guys to hear that. And of course, Rod put some pressure on Mr. Peter Clark. He said, hey, if Pete comes on, I'll come on. Well, Rod beat him to it. I've already talked to Pete. We're going to really try to make that happen. I know for those of you who don't, or who know Pete, you're greatly anticipating that interview. I have not had a chance to do it yet, but he is committed to doing it. And as soon as he feels up to it, we will make that happen. So that's kind of a look inside the next couple weeks here, maybe the next month of episodes here for the Get Home Safe podcast, right? Building up to football season. So as I promised you guys, I'm always looking for guests, always trying to record episodes in a timely manner so that we can continue to have great guests on Fridays, and in some situations upcoming, perhaps on Mondays. I spilled coffee on my lovely shirt here, of course, while the camera is shining. Oh man, first hit. Well, it's been a few hits, but we just isn't that always the case? We just did laundry yesterday, and I get a stain on my shirt. Not that, you you can't do laundry again. But in our new place here, we don't have laundry in our unit. We have to walk across the parking lot to a shared area or go to the laundromat, which we've done both of. Anyway, you guys don't care about that stuff. I'm just venting away. So exciting things for the podcast upcoming. Mondays I typically break down sports, but in the summer, the dog days of summer, sports are kind of dry. I know we just had the Olympics and things, but we're kind of just waiting around for football season. Although Saturday night, our first official hosting thing, I guess we did have some people over here, of course, for UFC 265. That was a lot of fun. Derek Lewis went down in the heavyweight title fight to Gane, I think was his name. Anyway, I'm sure you guys can look it up, but another great UFC event. I love that sport. I love their leadership. Just a spectacular product that never gets old. So that was fun. It felt like officially home once you kind of sit down and watch UFC on a Saturday night or have a cup of coffee on a Sunday morning on your couch. Little things that you're like, man, this is home sweet home. So Valerie will be here to tell you all about that next Monday, as her and I are just so happy to be here, to be out on our own. We loved our roommates. That was a good time with our good friends, Mike and Lauren. But, I think every couple has a moment in time where they need to be on their own, right? And then be living with just them. But some good times at the old Cassell house, the castle, if you will. We will miss it, but we have new memories to make here in our home here in I'll say Covina, California. Anyway, let's see. Let's get to our Suds with Studs segment. I told you guys a few weeks ago that when I did a Suds with Studs, I'm a big, this isn't a sponsor or anything, but I'm a supporter of Black Rifle Coffee. And I think pretty good coffee. It's like a subscription service. Well, they support veterans and police officers and things. So it just kind of makes sense to do that. But anyway, they put out this magazine. I got notifications, and I will post this article on our Facebook page, the Get Home Safe Facebook page. I will post this, but it's Coffee or Die magazine, and it's by Black Rifle Coffee, and they write up some pretty good stories, and basically exactly what we're looking for on Suds with Studs. We're looking to talk about some heroes, people that we would love to sit down and have a cold one with, and not just by the first round, but every single round. So a lot of these people that we talk about are those who are no longer with us because they've either passed away naturally over old age, or they were taken from us in their heroic actions and lost their life admirably, giving to others usually. So this is an article written by Black Rifle Coffee or Die magazine. I did one a few weeks back. Shannon, what was her name? Shannon. Anyway, she was like a special forces, one of the first females in special forces, and that really fun article to check out, even though she, of course, not a fun read because she lost her life. But you know what I mean. So here is this recent article. This is about two soldiers who were killed in 2017 in an ambush of a special forces team. They were symbolically awarded Green Berets. As you know, Green Berets are pretty elite fighting force. These guys were honored symbolically as Green Berets, even though they weren't Green Berets themselves. The article reads, and it was written by Maggie Benzivi recently, July 21st, 2021. And the headline reads, They fought to the death alongside Green Berets. Now they are Green Berets. So two young soldiers here who were not Green Berets, but were symbolically awarded the Green Beret title after their heroic actions. And I will read that to you here now. In a rare honor, two soldiers who fought to the death alongside Special Forces teammates in an infamous October 2017 ambush in Niger were symbolically presented with Green Berets on Tuesday. Sergeant LaDavid Johnson and Sergeant First Class Jeremiah Johnson were assigned to an 11-man team with 3rd Special Forces Group in Niger on October 4th, 2017. When the unit was ambushed by more than 100 Islamic State group terrorists on a remote road. The team became separated during the ambush, with 4 of the men killed and 2 injured. The team, along with more than 30 Nigerian troops, were pursuing a local ISIS commander, Dundun Shefu, A helicopter support team pulled out due to weather conditions, leaving the team exposed in Tongo near the border with Mali. There's a video below here in the article. Again, I will post this article for you guys to read, but there's also a video here with some pretty heavy content of the ambush itself, so you can watch kind of what was unfolding. And it says the video below, which is age restricted, contains combat footage of the 2017 Niger ambush. After the initial ambush, which disabled most of the team's vehicles, LaDavid Johnson, a wheeled vehicle mechanic from Miami, Florida, became isolated with 3 Nigerian soldiers, who were each quickly shot as they looked for cover. Alone, Sergeant Johnson found cover about 1.6 kilometers or 1 mile, the Army said in its final report from the ambush site. He engaged the enemy with both an M240 machine gun and M2010 sniper rifle until he was killed by enemy fire. His body was not recovered for 48 hours after the incident, leading to the fears that he had been captured. However, the Army concluded that his wounds, which came from at least 2 different kinds of guns, were consistent with having been hit with a sporadic fire while firing up until his death. He received a posthumous Silver Star for his actions. Then Staff Sergeant Jeremiah Johnson, a chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear specialist from New Bern, North Carolina, was one of 3 members of the team who died together. Staff Sergeant Johnson and Green Berets Brian C. Black and Dustin M. Wright became isolated. By the accounts of their teammates and investigations afterwards, they stuck with one another as each became wounded rather than flee as the main enemy force overran them. Johnson's and Wright's bodies were found together with extensive close-range wounds. In the awards ceremony, Johnson was described as having, quote, maneuvered multiple times across open terrain through intense and accurate fire from an overwhelming hostile force to protect his team. Jeremiah Johnson joined the active duty Army in 2008 after a year in the Army Reserves. He was awarded a Bronze Star with Valor in 2019 for his role in the fight and was posthumously promoted to Sergeant First Class. Quote, their actions were key to saving the lives of multiple soldiers, reads the citation inducting Sergeant Johnson and Sergeant First Class Johnson into the honorary ranks of the Green Berets. Well, it goes without saying, but to Johnson and Johnson, the 2 brave soldiers killed in 2017, you are heroes and 2 people that I would love to sit down and have a beer with, and not just by the first round, but every single round. So a pretty crazy scenario there. I can't imagine being ambushed, knowing you're outnumbered, knowing you're probably going to die, but just giving it everything you had, having to be shot by multiple guns, having to just fight to the death, literally. I mean, there had to be fear there. I don't know if you're overcome by fear in that moment, or if you're just, the adrenaline's just pumping. You don't have time to be afraid. I don't know. But to these guys, just one of many examples of guys we want to continue to talk about here on a weekly segment, hopefully weekly, usually on Mondays, Suds with Studs. So if you have any more suggestions of people like this, please send them my way. I love talking about heroes in the military, police. It doesn't matter. It could be everyday citizens. But I will post this article so that you guys can read it, and of course see some of the footage there. It's rather intense, not recommended for children by any means. So please check that out on our Facebook page. After this episode, I will post that. Okay. Okay. So the Olympics, right? We're going for the past few weeks, delayed after they were canceled in 2020. So these are the 2020 Olympics, basically in 2021. A lot of storylines, of course. America usually up there in the medal count. As a kid, I liked watching the track and field, the races, the sprints. I thought those were really cool. Basketball was kind of always fun to watch, to see, all these NBA guys together playing on one team. I mean, anytime, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson on the same team, or, what is Kobe and LeBron or whoever, like, it was crazy seeing all these guys, all-star teams basically participating. Baseball, which is kind of like come and go and like not always there. It's back in the Olympics, which I think is cool. The U.S. fell to Japan in the gold medal game. Very, very tough loss. Lost 2-0. I know my good friend Todd Carson and I are always big USA baseball fans. So I didn't see any of that, but I was, cheering them on. Obviously, you typically root for USA, right? I mean, why would you not root for your country? And it's also fun for those of us who have heritage elsewhere, whether you have British descent or Peruvian or, I don't know, Filipino, just like to see kind of countries where your heritage is from, your ancestors are from, to kind of cheer for them, right? I always say, how's Netherlands doing there? Usually not great, but pull for them. So the Olympics are, I don't know, they're entertaining usually. And how could you not root for your country's team? Well, it brought up a point that I think a lot of people experienced this week or last week with the U.S. women's soccer team, and they've become so woke, so I don't know, so outspoken about I don't know exactly what it is they're protesting, but just the whole concept of not standing for the national anthem, which I don't know if you were allowed to or not. I didn't even watch because I didn't want to be disappointed. But I saw, like when the game started, everyone takes a knee right before the game. I'm just like, what are we doing? And so I heard arguments about people who were saying, how could you root against America? Because people like me, I'll be honest, I was glad when they lost. They lost to Canada. I think they ended up with a bronze medal, right? Or whatever. And the U.S. women's soccer team is usually the best in the world, right? And people saying, oh, how could you root against America? They wear USA on their chest. Like, they're Americans. Well, I was trying to like explain that and think about that. And the best analogy I came up with was, first of all, they are, to me, not representing America. I think they pissed off a lot of America with their actions. And so there were people rooting against them. These are things I never thought I'd say. I was rooting against an American team to fail. And I was trying to be like, how can I justify this? Like, and you don't really need to justify anything. But my point is, I remember throughout our history, and I saw it a lot with like the Iraq War, right? And obviously Afghanistan, and you saw it a lot in Vietnam. Protests, massive protests over, the military being involved somewhere. And you'd always hear stuff. Also, we support the troops, but not the cause, stuff like that. And it was just like, I'm allowed to root against an American sports team, just like a lot of people out there have rooted against the United States in military conflicts. How many people protested the war in Iraq over the years, protested the Vietnam War? Okay. And you can make arguments whether or not those things should have happened. That's fine. Like, we could talk about that another time, but don't turn around and tell me that I can't root against an American soccer team when you literally are rooting against American soldiers. You probably wouldn't say this, but maybe the loss of life bothers you as it should, any loss of life. But that's kind of was my point. My justification is like, I'm not going to sit here and listen to people who basically hate the U.S. military and thinks that they do no good ever. Only bad things. The military has only done horrible atrocities, never done anything good in some people's eyes. So, yeah, I think I do have a right to root against the American soccer team. And I'm glad they lost because they don't represent me. They may have USA on their chest. Sorry, not for me. Much like the Lakers. I've told you guys this before with LeBron James, and even before the NBA went extra woke. LeBron James, just because you wear a jersey that I like, a team that I like, doesn't mean I have to root for you. And I've seen that a lot more as my adult life has evolved, if you will. So I don't know if you guys understand that analogy or not, as far as how could you root against America? Well, I've seen people root against America in not sporting events, but especially this past year. Need I say more? people wanting America to crumble, wanting it. And America still being, I mean, how often do you hear on a daily basis how awful America is? I mean, we're told that America is evil, that everything we've ever done has been, wrong and never helped anybody. And you just hear how awful a place this is. Yet people continue to come here. So people legitimately do, I think, hate America. They don't say it that way, but it's constantly criticizing how awful this place is. Meanwhile, getting to not bear the fruits, but appreciate and live off the fruits that it produces. So, for anyone telling me, "Oh, how could you root against the U.S. women's soccer team?" That's how I justify it. Well, there's a lot of people who hate America, and I love America, and I love America more. I love America more to root against its women's soccer team than I do I don't know. Anyway, but my tongue is twisting here. But if you guys take issue with that, then by all means, it's freedom of speech. It still exists, at least for now. So everyone's entitled to their opinions. They don't have to make people happy or whatever. But when I think of guys, people who represent America and people who I want to cheer for, I think I just read to you about two amazing young men who, to me, those guys represent America, represent the greatness of this country, not the U.S. women's soccer team. So, and I know there's a few women on the team that are, I don't know, they stood for the anthem. Carl, I don't know much about soccer, or let alone women's soccer. So forgive me. I can't believe I've talked this much about it today. Carly Lloyd, I think is her name. I don't know. I think she stood for the anthem or whatever it was. So I will move on. But those were my thoughts regarding the women losing and cheering against them, because we don't need to root for people who don't represent us in a good light. Okay. Bobby Bowden, legendary Florida State coach, died over the weekend, 91 years old. And I think it was pancreatic cancer. Legendary football coach, Florida State, really put that program on the map when he took over, made it this really elite program. And they had some good years there with Jimbo Fisher, Jameis Winston, winning the national title and everything. But I mean, Bobby Bowden was just Mr. Seminole, really. He's the standard. I mean, when you think of Florida State, you think of Deion Sanders, you think of some great teams there in the 90s. Oh my goodness. The first 3 years of the BCS, I think Florida State was in the first 3 national championship games. They see Tennessee, then Virginia Tech, and then there was one. Anyway, they played in the first 3 BCS title games. Amazing teams in the 90s there. Great rivalry with Florida, right? Florida State has kind of gone the wrong direction, like a lot of premier programs have. But Bobby Bowden, rest in peace, just a credible man, God-fearing man, a guy that had that Southern accent. And so when he talked, you're just like, I don't know, he made you feel like, yeah, I like that. That's Coach Bowden, man. I bet his players have just tremendous praise for him, as most players do with their coaches. But rest in peace, Bobby Bowden, legend in college football, who I hope they do a really nice ceremony for him when the football season opens here down in Tallahassee, the great state of Florida. So rest in peace, sir. One more Olympics thing. I think it was a high jump. This just blew. As you guys, as I've said before, I hate ties, sister kissers. There should be a worse name for it. And I know there's ties in the NFL, which is a joke. There should never be a tie. I don't care what tie-breaking format you got to go to. No ties. Doesn't matter how long you play, whether it's the first team to score, whatever. No ties. It's ridiculous. So apparently there was some high jumpers in the Olympics, and they were the last 2 remaining. And after going at it back and forth, it was just like, hey, can we just both have a gold medal? Or what if we just stop right here and we're both gold medal winners? And they agreed to this, and I didn't know it was legal. Forgive me, I didn't look up the countries or whatever, but they're good friends, so it's a cool lovey-dovey story, whatever. But it was 2 gold medals and a bronze, so no silver. I was like, no. This isn't a team event where you can have multiple gold medal winners. gold, silver, bronze. I mean, what is happening to this world? No ties. I mean, can you imagine like I don't know, you're in the running for a job and it's you and this other person. And in the end, you're just like, hey, what if you hired both of us for the same position? Maybe you need multiple people. I don't know. Maybe it's a terrible analogy, but no ties. Can we stop this? And this should not be supported. This should not be this wonderful, great emotional story. No, stop it. You worked for 4 years, 5 years technically with the delay and everything, and you're going to have a tie, 2 gold medals. Come on. Oh, I don't like it. I don't like it. And the NFL, shame on you for still having a format in which ties can happen. The stupid 10-minute overtime now leads to more ties. I hate it all. College football made some changes to their overtimes. I think it's like you go for 2 earlier now. Forgive me. I'll look it up as the season gets closer. Let's see here. COVID vaccine for who? Oh, for the military. Okay. Just some things to talk about. I try to keep track of all these notes I write down, and then things pop up on Twitter and things of that nature. Yeah. No tie, gold medal tie. That was so stupid. Okay. I talked about the NFL Hall of Fame, and the speeches over the weekend were really, really good. Again, first, the 2020 class, highlighted by a couple people that I liked hearing. Isaac Bruce, wide receiver for the Rams, did play for, I think the 49ers briefly too, but one of the best players in Rams history, greatest show on turf. I had no idea that he played college football at Santa Monica Junior College before eventually going to Memphis. But Isaac Bruce, the Reverend, as they call him, very religious man, God-fearing, has been a tremendous leader in his community over the years. The Reverend Ike, God, I miss watching him play, miss watching him catch balls for those St. Louis Rams teams. The LA Rams of St. Louis is what we'll call them. Super Bowl champion. He had a great speech. I love seeing Rams get in the Hall of Fame, as I'm sure anybody who has a team likes seeing their guys get in the Hall of Fame. Troy Polamalu, legendary player for the Steelers, just tough as nails type of guy. Who didn't love watching him? I mean, jumping over piles. Great player at USC. Kind of was at the very beginning, his senior year, the very beginning of kind of USC little mini dynasty there. One of the best all-around football players, I can honestly say. A guy I think would have done well in any era in the NFL. Playing in the 60s and 70s when, guys didn't, there was no concussion protocols. There was none of that stuff. It was just, mitigated violence basically out there. So he had a great speech. The Troy Polamalu speech was incredible. And these are like 7-minute speeches. So if you have time, go check them out. Bill Cowher, Steelers head coach, in the Hall of Fame. Jimmy Johnson. This is the class of 2020. Bill Cowher, all those years, got so close to the Super Bowl, got into the Super Bowl, lost it to, who was that? The Cowboys. Not the Jimmy Johnson led Cowboys, but the Barry Switzer led Cowboys, I believe. And then Jimmy Johnson, of course, multiple Super Bowls for the Cowboys. Did coach the Dolphins briefly, came out of retirement. Who doesn't remember that? But anyway, a couple of legendary names there, very legendary. There were some other names on here that I recognized and saw, but for the most part, kind of the bigger names are people that I remember. Some of them I don't remember. Edgar and James getting in on the class of 2020 as well. So some great names there. Saturday night, their speeches were pretty good, but 2021 class was on Sunday and some incredible speeches there as well. Let's see. Peyton Manning, I think, stole the show. Great speech as always. Not quite as good as his retirement speech, which is still one of the best things I've ever heard back in whatever you see, 2021. So 2017, I think it was. Just one of the best speeches of all time. But he had a great speech there in Canton. He knew he had to hurry up, so he had to speak pretty quickly. Alan Faneca, Steelers offensive lineman, did not look like an offensive lineman anymore. The dude has lost all kinds of weight. And I don't think people give the offensive line credit with how great of athletes these guys are, because they have to stay at a certain weight, 300 plus pounds or whatever, to perform. But I mean, most people over 300 pounds are not athletes, right? So to be an athlete at that weight and that size is remarkable, but he trimmed up big time. And you see that a lot. I was talking to my buddy about that. You see that a lot with offensive linemen. They retire and then they just shrink, lose all kinds of weight. Mark Schlereth comes to mind, uh, lineman for the Broncos for many years. So, man, Alan Faneca looked good, looked real good. Charles Woodson, that was kind of special. His mom kind of brought him out. Really special, special lady sounded like, and he was very thankful and appreciative of her. Pretty good speech talking about his time with the Raiders and of course the Packers. John Lynch. I mean, when you think of safeties, much like Troy Polamalu, John Lynch was just a guy that, man, he never was hurt, but he dropped a hammer all the time. I don't know if he could play in today's game because he'd get fined so much for illegal hits probably, or what is deemed illegal. But that dude, I love watching John Lynch play. All his time with the Broncos, the Buccaneers, alongside Derek Brooks and Warren Sapp, that nasty Bucs defense. Just awesome stuff. Tom Flores, the old Raiders coach, not pretty old, up there in age. So I think he was out in a wheelchair, but still, I couldn't believe Tom Flores was not in the Hall of Fame yet for all the great work he did with the Raiders. So that was surprising, but it eventually came to him. So congrats to him after waiting for that many, many years. Calvin Johnson, Lions wide receiver, who put up great numbers, but retired really early, retired at like 30, I think, 35 now. And I think I saw a stat. I should have looked this up. Jerry Rice. It said Calvin Johnson is at the being inducted into the Hall of Fame at 35 years old. And then it listed all the stats that Jerry Rice had after turning 35. It was like, okay, different class by himself for sure. But Calvin Johnson had a short career and a pretty decent one there with the Lions. Retired pretty early, but hey, congrats to him. Megatron, right, as they used to call him. And then let's see who else on here. Drew Pearson, the other half of the first ever Hail Mary from Roger Staubach, right? The first Hail Mary. I think how does the story go? I think it was against the Vikings in a playoff game. Anyway, I don't know if they originally called it the Hail Mary or what, but I think it was Roger Staubach, who was like a big Catholic guy maybe, and they were asking him about the play, and he just said something about we're doing our Hail Marys or something, whatever it was. I think that's something somewhere along those lines is how the term Hail Mary came about. But it was cool seeing Drew Pearson and Roger Staubach up there on stage. Just legends, man. It gets you excited for football season. I think I love the Hall of Fame enshrinement every year because you get to look back. We're all looking forward to the season starting, but you get to look back and it just gets the juices flowing for, man, this is a great game, great sport. And to see the best who've ever done it. And maybe some guys get in that you're like, why did he get in? Or there's guys that's like, man, why did it take so long for this guy to get in? But either way, a fun weekend. The Hall of Fame game was played. I didn't see any of it, but a lot of people were smiling because football is back. From here until the Super Bowl, there's football every weekend now. Maybe not great football, preseason football, which I don't really watch, but knowing that it's there, knowing that it is on, and it just gets us closer to the regular season and this 17-game season we're going to see for the first time. So, yeah, the Hall of Fame speeches and enshrinement was great. And I left off a ton of names on there, but I'm sure you guys know who they are, and we'll check them out. Some of the speeches anyway. I had this idea a few weeks back, and much like the walk-up music, what would be your walk-up song as a person, coming up to bat or just coming out for a fight, right? Coming out of the tunnel, what would be your walk-up music? And so I got some great responses from you guys, which was awesome. I love the interaction. I love when you guys write in, when you text me, do whatever, topics and questions and things. I know Bill Barnes loves that too. So here's what I want you guys to do. I teased this not too long ago, but what I want you to do is I want you to give me your Mount Rushmore of your teams. Let's go through the list. We did this before with like, hey, send me your top 10, top 15 sports moments, either games you attended or watched, just memories that you have. That was a lot of fun. So it doesn't have to be the 4 best players, arguably, just you as a fan. And so for me, as an example, by Mount Rushmore, and you got to keep, it's only 4, right? Only 4 guys. Mount Rushmore, it still exists as of now. I'm sure people want to tear it down, but not yet. We still have a Mount Rushmore. So my Mount Rushmore of Rams, LA Rams, they could be St. Louis Rams. I got to go Kurt Warner. Love me some Kurt Warner. It gets harder and harder because you got to limit it. You got to keep it to 4. London Fletcher, probably my all-time favorite football player, undersized linebacker who I hope will be in the Hall of Fame someday. I mentioned Isaac Bruce. He was so much fun to watch. I know these guys are coming from kind of the same era right now. So Isaac Bruce, Marshall Faulk. He was awesome to watch. A leader, just incredible football player, like just all around. So either Faulk or Bruce. And Aaron Donald is so, I've never seen a defensive player change games the way he does. And I think he's probably the best overall football player in the league. So he's got to be on there. And it's a tough one to call between Isaac Bruce and Marshall Faulk. I would probably give the nod to Bruce because I think he played longer, and probably, I don't know. Marshall was running back, caught a lot of passes, did things that not a lot of running backs did back then. And kind of evolved the position. So there's an argument there. I don't know. I gotta think about it. Falk or Isaac Bruce as far as my Mount Rushmore. But I want to hear even from you Raider fans, you Niner fans. Send me your Mount Rushmore of your favorite players. And it doesn't have to be the best players. It could just be guys that you like cheering for. As an example, the Lakers for me. And it could be guys that you didn't watch, but you've seen highlights or know about. Like Magic Johnson to me is as far as Lakers go, being the leader and the architect of Showtime, and just the guy who made passing the ball, made that like super attractive, I think is awesome. I loved Kurt Rambis. He's become a pretty good coach as well. Who else would I do for Lakers? The easy answer is, Kobe Bryant, and one of the greatest to ever play. Anytime he had the ball, you're just like, he's going to score. He's going to score. One of the best one-on-one players for sure. And then I loved watching Shaq, but who would I go with? Who would be like my 4th? Who was it? Derek Fisher would be tough to pass up on, just because, he played defense really well, took charges, which I was always a big fan of. And man, that left-handed stroke of his, draining important shots, most notably that 0.4, 0.3, whatever it was against the Spurs. And then, of course, hitting some big 3-pointers. But Robert Horry, I love Big Shot Rob, just because he showed up when it mattered, So it's tough. It's harder than you think. It's a lot harder than you think, because you leave people out and you're like, oh, I got to keep this to 4. With the Dodgers, for me, 2 of the 4, or excuse me, Chick Hearn. Chick Hearn is probably my first Laker, because he was always there for me. Much like Vince Scully. Vince Scully's on my Mount Rushmore of Dodgers. Loved him. I'm trying to think as a kid who I liked watching. I haven't watched as much Dodger baseball over the past few years, but as a kid, I liked Mike Piazza. I thought he was the greatest. I hated seeing him go. I always felt like all my favorite Dodgers, I hated becoming like attached to them, because I felt like every single time they were traded. Dodgers, we could do a whole podcast on bad Dodger trades, at least in my eyes. But who else Dodger wise? Mondesi was cool. That throwing people out from all over the field. But yeah, Vin Scully for sure. Vin Scully and Chick Hearn are definitely on my Mount Rushmore of Dodgers and Laker greats. So that's just an example of a few that I want you guys to send me. I want you to send me your thoughts on those things. Could be anything, any team you want, any any sport. I'll even take some soccer ones if you guys want. Although I don't know all the soccer leagues and everything. So send me your Mount Rushmore of your favorite teams. And again, your favorite players. I want to hear this. I want to get emails from you guys, and also send me some questions for Bill Barnes, some topics. What do you guys want to hear about? I always say this, but I truly do mean it. Send me some stuff, because it helps stimulate the show really, and gets things in motion. So you know where to email us, gethomesafepodcast@yahoo.com. And of course, social media, we're all over on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Most of our posts are on Facebook as far as information, who's coming on the program, all things like that. So, okay, I might just do it today. We haven't quite gone an hour. It might be a little shorter show than normal, but I thought, that it might be. But anyway, that's it for me today. I won't try to fill the hour. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. We're back with new podcasts here in moving forward. We'll be back Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays like we have been for almost a year now. That's a scary thought. Almost a year under this new format. Wow. Man, that's crazy stuff. Time flies when you're having fun, right? So I hope you're ready for some football upcoming. I'm excited. Let's see. Hard Knocks starts Tuesday with the Dallas Cowboys. That should be fun to watch. Bill Barnes will be here. We're probably recording Tuesday. I think he's coming over here. If not, we'll do it Wednesday, and it will be a later episode release. But as always, look for all our posts on social media. Thursdays, we put out a picture of our upcoming guest with some information for the Friday episodes. And any other topics, things you want me to talk about, or me to talk about with Bill, any guest suggestions, I'm all ears, guys. I'm all ears. So send them my way. I love hearing from you guys, knowing that who exactly is listening, because you never do know. I recorded with Rod Bazuzzi recently, and he'll be on the program here soon. And it was cool hearing him. He's someone I've never really talked to before, and him talking how great he loved the podcast and love hearing from different people and things. So very proud of the product and moving forward, and just want to keep this thing going. So I say it every week, but I do mean it. Content, suggestions, topics, questions, potential guests, definitely any suggestions you guys have will be taken in and try to make happen one way or another. But we're back Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Mondays, again, mostly sports, recapping what's going on. But the next couple of Mondays with either my girlfriend Valerie talking about our move, and then after that, the Mondays with Mark Carson, as we kind of look forward to the upcoming Rio Hondo Prep football games and recapping them as the season goes along. Wednesdays with Bill Barnes, my good friend, the retired police officer, on the weekly Wednesday weigh-in, and a new guest every Friday. Some returning guests, which we're going to probably be having some people come back on the program, and there's nothing wrong with that. I look forward to talking to people again. So there'll be plenty of that, but I appreciate you guys for tuning in every week. It was nice being off last week, but I'm ready to get back into the swing of things here on the Get Home Safe podcast, and can't do it without you guys. I could, but it's no fun if nobody's listening. So guys, thank you for joining us today on the Get Home Safe podcast. I look forward to bringing you more episodes here as the football season is approaching, and just, the summer's almost over. How crazy is that? So we'll be back with Bill Barnes on the weekly Wednesday weigh-in, and Andy Angelo, my good friend, on Friday will join us. So that's the schedule. That's what to look forward to. But guys, until then, as always, no matter what you're doing, whether you're out on the town or rounding third base, get home safe.